what they did to your family, you're lucky to make it out alive.
Streaming on Peacock.
These men are going to come after me. Taking them out is my only chance.
Put a bullet in her head.
From the co-creator of Ozark.
Looks like a family was running drugs.
Execution-style killing, it's rare for the Keys. And it leads on who they might have been running for.
The cartel killed my family. I'm gonna kill them. All of them.
MIA. Streaming now. Only on Peacock.
Hello everyone and welcome to another episode of True Crime with Caitlyn. I'm back with another midweek mini and today I'm going to tell you all about the case of a man who bludgeoned both of his parents to death in what was later dubbed the Spoilt Brat murders. This is the murder of Derek and Eileen Severs. Derek and Eileen were a happily married, retired couple living in Hamilton, Leicestershire. They were very well liked within their community. Derek was an incredibly successful, wealthy businessman, and he and Eileen gave back to their community. Eileen devoted a lot of her time to charity work, so much so that she was even awarded an MBE because of it. For any of my non-UK listeners, an MBE is an award which is given by the King or Queen and stands for Member of the Order of the British Empire. It's given to recognise notable community service, charity work, etc. And so getting one of these is a huge accomplishment and something that you should be very proud of. On the 13th of November 1993, Eileen had been spending the day at a charity event within her local church. She left shortly after 1:30 p.m, heading home to wind down and have a lazy afternoon. Meanwhile, Derek was sampling a couple of pints at the local pub and he too left in the afternoon time. He left shortly after 3:30 p.m. Following this, a couple of days would go by and no one had heard from the couple. They had several appointments booked which they didn't cancel or attend, and pre-arranged plans that they had with friends they just didn't show up to, which was very unlike them. They would never ghost their friends or just drop them in at last minute, especially without saying anything. They were a very punctual social couple. If they said they were going to be somewhere, they were going to be there. Their radio silence worried friends so much that they reported it to the police. Police arrived at the Severs home and were met with Derek and Eileen's only son, Roger. The three of them had a very strained relationship, to say the least. Derek had worked incredibly hard to build up his wealth and support his family, whereas Roger was the complete opposite. He had no drive, and in fact, he was just plain old lazy, sitting, waiting to inherit his parents' fortune. He would jump from job to job to job, never caring to hold one down and to try and provide for himself, because he knew when he would eventually get the sack that his parents would help him out financially. And they did. They paid his rent, they paid all of his bills, any debt that he got himself into, they would pay off, sometimes in the thousands of pounds. And as you can imagine, Derek and Eileen were getting sick of this. Roger was a fully grown man who should have been looking after himself. Roger allowed the officers inside to take a quick look around the bungalow, where they noticed that it was in disarray. Ordinarily, the bungalow was very clean, well kept, and even described as immaculate, but on this walk around, it was messy, and carpets from two of the rooms had been pulled up. Roger was the only person that police spoke to who didn't seem concerned about his parents' disappearance. In fact, he even offered an explanation, stating that Derek and Eileen had gone on a trip to London, which was later proved to be a lie. Police became very suspicious of Roger and placed him under arrest. CSI arrived at the bungalow and began doing a more in-depth forensic search. Inside of the bathroom, they were able to find traces of blood. Someone had tried to clean it, but couldn't quite get rid of it all. The blood that they found was sort of splattered, and this indicated to them that this was from a violent attack. It wasn't like dripping blood if someone had caught themselves shaving. This blood came as a result of something being hit with force. They also found traces of blood in the garage, proving that there had been 2 separate attacks. In the hallways of the bungalow, yellow fibres were extracted from the carpet, and they were described as rolled, meaning that something heavy had been on top of whatever this fibre had came from and was being dragged along the carpet. These yellow fibres and spots of blood led the police to Derek's car. Fresh mud that was extracted from the wheel arch and the footwell of the car was examined in depth, and I think this is absolutely brilliant. I love these investigative techniques. The amazing experts were able to determine an area where this mud likely came from, and so police descended on Armley Woods. On the 1st of December, an officer who was aiding in the search noticed a small pile of broken twigs and branches that were sort of laid trying to conceal disturbed soil. He placed his hand on the soil to have a feel of what was underneath, and that is when he touched human skin. Derek and Eileen Severs had finally been found. Eileen had been wrapped up in a yellow blanket which matched the fibres found in the hallway of their bungalow. So, what happened on the 13th of November? Derek and Eileen had had enough with their son constantly scrounging off them, and they were cutting him off. Roger stormed out of the home and went out getting blackout drunk out of his mind. After Eileen had returned home from that charity event at the church, Roger arrived at the bungalow armed with a mallet. Using this, he bludgeoned his 69-year-old mother to death, whacking her in the head 8 times, fracturing her skull. He then sat with his mother's dead body and waited for his father to return, and before 68-year-old Derek even got into the house, he would be beaten with the mallet, struck 10 times in the head. Roger then loaded their bodies into Derek's car, where he drove them out to Armley Woods and buried them in a shallow grave. His trial took place in November 1994 at Nottingham Crown Court. Here he admitted to killing his parents, but tried to put forward a plea of diminished responsibility. During the trial, he was described as a, quote, inadequate psychopath, and the jury agreed. 38-year-old Roger Severs would be found guilty of the murder of his parents, Derek and Eileen Severs. For this, he was handed 2 life sentences. He served 21 years in prison before being released on licence in 2014. Roger was then recalled to prison in 2020, and he was last denied parole in 2023. Thank you for joining me for today's episode. Don't forget to follow the podcast so that you never miss a new upload. You can find photos and updates over on the Instagram at TrueCrimeCaitlyn. I appreciate you all for being here, and I'll catch you all on the next one.